Hey, and welcome to Things Worth Learning. I'm your host, Matt Stauffer, and this is a show where a curious computer programmer, that's me, interviews fascinating people about their passions. My guest today is Erika Heidi, content creator and senior developer advocate at Sourcegraph. Erika, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself, whether it's your personal or your professional life?
Sure. So I'm Erika. I am a developer. I've been a PHP developer for many years, and I got involved with the PHP community, the Laravel community. But I also have many hobbies and very passionate about open source and content creation. And lately, in my previous job, I worked as a technical writer for DigitalOcean. So I use it to write many tutorials about PHP, Laravel. And nowadays, I'm working at Sourcegraph as developer advocate. And as I mentioned, I have many hobbies and lots of side projects and things like that. I think it's nice to have these. And I stopped feeling guilty about having too many hobbies because it's just like I am, I just accepted that is fine. And it's nice to be also a generalist. Sometimes I think it's good to have all these experiences. And so, yeah. So 3D printing is one of these hobbies.
Yeah, as we can see in the background. Anyone who's not tuned into the YouTube, there's a 3D printer literally behind her right now. So, I love what you're saying about the pressure to have to lock ourselves down. Like I know I have ADHD and I'm like, I just want to do all the things. If you're watching on YouTube, anybody who looks behind me, there's like a whole bunch of unread books. There's jillion different Funko Pops. There's a TypeScript book that I never finished. There's so many interesting things to do in the world. Yeah. Why limit yourself just to the one that you can kind of focus yourself purely on? So, and we were just talking beforehand. I remember I've been kind of like following your life over Instagram and stuff like that, or I don't know if it's Instagram or Twitter, but whatever, I see your pictures and you're like out here, like in the middle of the pandemic, still finding ways to like enjoy being outdoors and surfing and do all these kind of things. And so it's been really fun and kind of inspiring for me to see the ways that you have stayed active in the midst of something that I think has shut a lot of us down. You know what I mean? So yes. I love that.
Yes, definitely. It has been difficult, right? Of course, for everyone. But yeah, you gotta find something to give you joy, at least be able to go outside. And surfing was really important for me. It was hard, very hard. It is very difficult, but that's the challenge. That's exactly why it is so rewarding. So I needed a lot of push from my husband, like gently, like, let's go, you can do this. Sometimes I would just start, like I used to cry in the middle of the sea and like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And he was, calm down, you can do it, just breathe. And, sometimes it's just frustrating, like a very hard piece of code that you just can't, or a bug that you can't solve. And then I feel like crying a lot in my work as well sometimes. But it's just like you gotta breathe and just, focus because you can do it. Yeah. If I could do it, then I feel like anyone can. So that's also another lesson that I learned with surfing.
That's cool. And it's cool to be pushing and challenging yourself, but it's wild to me how much in the midst of a pandemic, sometimes the challenge is just to get out and do the thing, like just to get out of my house. I was telling you, I'm like, I consider success when I get my kids to the park and just go biking around. It's not even a challenge. Yes. It's just a challenge to like pick yourself up and figure out what things are we worried about right now. And, and it's just like it, and probably part of that is just adulthood. Part of that is just life. But it does feel like in a lot of ways, some certain things, especially as a lot of people I know are dealing with burnout, just doing anything feels like it's a challenge. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so impressed with you. Is that you weren't just learning something very difficult. It was on top of a global pandemic where it feels like doing anything is difficult. So anyway, thank you for being inspirational. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So first question every single time is, do you have any sort of life mantra or phrase or idea you try to live your life by?
Well, not a phrase, nothing really concrete, but I have like some general ideas that I live by, general concepts, I would say. And I think most important to me is to use creativity, to try to be creative in everything that I do, because that kind of keeps the spark, just even in work sometimes can be boring, but you have to find a way to be a little bit creative, do a little bit different, and that's what makes me not get so bored of all the things all the time that you have to repeat also. And like I use this in everything, like cooking. Like I like to cook, to invent. That's like things that are not on a recipe. I don't like to follow recipes. I like to just get see what I have in the fridge and just like do something, that's usually what makes me happier, because that is the challenge of limited resources and then turning into something. Also in coding, I find it more interesting when there is a little bit of limitation or challenge that you have these elements, because I also feel kind of overwhelmed by the amount of choices that you like ingredients of, for instance, on cooking, when you go to the supermarket and like it's just overwhelming, or when you have a project and there's just so many components, so many libraries, so many, that kind of stuff makes me slightly overwhelmed. So I like to try to, it's easier for me if there's some limitation, like these are the components or these are the ingredients I have, and then just do something with this, and that's usually easier for me to deal with.
I love that. There's do you know what a CSA is? It's like it's a maybe an American acronym. It's whatever. I'll just explain. A CSA in the US is where a farmer or a farm basically gets like whatever they're making, they'll sell a subscription, usually like a weekly subscription, and they'll just deliver a box to you of whatever they have that's fresh right now. And it's not always the stuff that you want, because, like the stuff we want to cook with is not necessarily always in season. So when you get these CSAs, you're supporting small farmers and usually local farmers. You're not, hurting the environment by the big trucks taking stuff from 1,000 miles away. But the downside is you're getting some vegetable you've never heard of in your entire life. So it's kind of interesting I've found that same thing where I'm like, well, I have this constraint. How am I going to be creative with this constraint? So I love that idea that you're sharing there.
Yes.
All right. So, this podcast is about one topic you're really passionate about. And I know you're passionate about a lot of topics, but we're going to pick one today.
Yes.
Can you tell me what we're going to talk about today?
Sure. Today we're going to talk about 3D printing.
All right. And I got to ask, would that 3D printer have always been in the background, or did you kind of like set it up right where like it happens to be in the background just for this?
No, it usually is there.
It usually lives there.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, it lives there.
Okay, so I want to start with 3D printing from the concept of somebody who's never interacted with a 3D printer.
Okay.
I know a lot of us either have done it or we've kind of connected with friends who've done it before. But imagining that there's probably quite a few people listening who aren't programmers, who have never actually seen how 3D printing works. Can you just start from a baseline? And let's say they're not watching on YouTube, so they can't see what that device back there looks like.
Okay.
Can you kind of talk us through what home 3D printing actually is?
Sure. So 3D printing in general is a more like is a generic kind of term, that there are different technologies, but the 3D printing we usually talk about, especially when you talk about home 3D printing, is a technology called FDM printing, which I forgot what it stands for, but I know that's it's a deposition. It's something deposition material, something like that.
Okay.
And the idea is to just create thin layers of material, and then you create an object out of that.
Okay.
But there are other technologies nowadays. There's the other one. I forgot the name. Also, I'm terrible with names. But there is another technology that makes it differently. It's better for detailed. It's kind of a wax kind of thing. I totally forgot the name.
Yeah.
But SLA, I remember now.
Okay.
SLA. Also don't know what it stands for. But what you need to know is that usually the 3D printing we talk about is this FDM process, which is creating layers and layers of material. And then this is we can use different types of filament for that. So what that 3D printing does, it's a very, I think I really admire the hardware, the work that it does, because it's very precise. It's a very precise machine. It's very impressive. It's like down to like millimeters, like it's very sensitive. And so your project, what you do is usually you create a model, or you can download a model that is ready. And then what you have to do with the model is slice it. So what is slice the model means what it kind of, you can imagine what it means. It means slicing it in very thin layers, right? So that the printer can print it, layer by layer. And that's, of course, it's a slow process. Depending on the object, it can take 6 hours, 8, 10, 12, 36 hours, depends on the size of the object. And the printer, it has, there are different types of printers also. So usually there is an axis. So there is an axis X and Y and Z also. So 3 axes. And then the head of the printer, let's say, it will move on the plate to like throw the material, let's say.
To deposit it,
Yes. And the filament is melted, like it's plastic usually. And then it goes through a high temperature process. So that will fill the areas that needs to be filled. So, sort of like trying to explain. It makes me think of like making a cake, and then you do the decoration with that thing. That I also don't know the name,
I don't know
especially in English. So
I was going to say, this is not your first language. You're doing an amazing job.
No,
so
yes, thank you. So yeah, it's like the cake decoration thing. So you do it on thin layers, and then also there are different types of extruders. Oh, I remember the word for the thing where the filament comes out.
The extruder.
The extruder. So the extruder can have different sizes as well. So and also the filament can have different sizes, but there is a standard size, which is 0.15. I have one here, 0.15 millimeters. It's a standard size, and then when you do the slicing with the model, remember I say that you get the model and then you slice it. So then you
slice it to that size.
You actually choose the size that you want. It can be more thick, because then you have thick layers will produce not so good quality, So the more thin the layer is, the thinner the layer is, the better the quality of the printed object, but it will also take longer to print.
Right. So if you have a thinner layer, does that mean you do need a thinner filament, or is there not a perfect parallel there?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No, because the size of the filament is going to be melted.
Oh, right.
Like it's going to be, almost melted. It's not like all that much, but it gets it in a consistency that it can actually stick with the other layer, right?
Yeah.
So the extruder can change, like a more thinner, it can change a bit. But then if you want really thick layer, then you will need a special extruder and special filaments, also sizes thicker.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk through this. I want to retell this a little bit to make sure I'm hearing it correctly, because I've never actually 3D. I have friends and family who do it, but I've never actually done it. So what I'm imagining is, let's say I was making a cube, right? So it's got a bottom, it's got a top, it's got all the sides. And let's say that I happen to make a cube in a 3D program on my computer, and I slice it, and I end up basically, let's say, with 50 slices, and each of those layers is basically what 1/50th the height of that cube would be.
Yes.
And the 3D printer gets those layers one at a time. So it gets the first layer, and the first layer is basically going to be a filled-in square, because it's going to be the bottom of the cube. So the 3D printer, does it go back and forth like an inkjet?
It goes,
or does it kind of follow whatever shape it wants?
Well, the slice program generates code. It's actually a code. It's a G code. It's called a G code. And this slice program, it will use the better paths to
It maps
create
out like directions,
yes,
basically. Okay.
exactly. So it will create some paths and optimize to print it quickest way possible.
Okay.
And also, it's usually not 100% solid. The middle of the object, usually you will have an infill that you can configure if you want a 10% infill or for it be very thin, like you can do a cross, just create a structure. And then very lightweight, and then that makes it faster. But the object is also more fragile. If you want a very resistant object, then you need to increase the infill so that it's more solid. And if you use 100% infill, then it's going to be very solid.
Actually fully solid, yeah.
Yes.
So if I were to do a cube and the cube the sides were opaque, then there would be no reason other than to make it really solid to actually fill the whole thing. It would probably make just some sort of lattice of triangles to try and make the inside light but support it really well. Is that kind of what you're saying with the infill?
Yes,
okay, that makes sense.
There are different types of infill that you can choose.
So as I'm thinking about it, so it sends that first layer and then it stops. Does it immediately go and do the next layer, or is it having to wait for it to cool down or something like that?
No, it just goes nonstop.
Okay. So if you send those 50 layers over, it's just going to be going, and every time it's done with the layer, it'll raise up whatever, however many millimeters,
but
and then it'll
it's
just get printing again.
thin. Yes.
Yeah, and it'll just keep doing that over and over and over again until it's like, I've deposited everything, I'm good.
Exactly.
Then what? Are you done, or is there a curing process or anything you have to do after that, or is it just ready to go?
No, with this process, with the FDM printer, it's good to go. It's already because the plastic gets solid quickly. Like it doesn't as soon as it gets out of the extruder, it solidifies and sticks together with the other layers. If everything goes right and there is no issues, there is no there are many issues that can happen. But let's say that your print is successful, then it's just ready. You can just take it off and it's ready. But sometimes you might need support material, for instance, depending on the angles of your object, you might need support material, because then if you have an object that is like a 90-degree angle shape, and then there is nothing to support it on the bottom, then you need to add support material so that it sustains the part of your model.
Just during the printing process, right?
You have to do it when you slice the object, and you add the support material you need.
So if I were to... Oh, go ahead.
But when you design the object, then you have also to be aware of that, because sometimes, because the support material, in addition to making the printer longer, you take a lot more time, it can leave residues, and it makes not so nice the surface.
Not as smooth.
So you need more work afterwards. After work, it's called post-work. I don't know, post-processing. Yes, post-processing.
Yeah. So I'm imagining, and this is probably a terrible example, but having something where the top of the item was wider than the bottom of the item, and so you can't just deposit this 3D filament on air. It has to have something it gets deposited on. So that's where it's building you're in this cutting process, you're building something to hold it up. Do you then snap it off and sand it down later, or how does that work?
How it works, so if you are aware of this when you're designing, you try to make the angles not so but when you have the object and it has these angles, then you have to, when you slice, you add the support material. It's going to be printed, but it is kind of weaker. It's not like the model. The printer does a little it builds, but it leaves some kind of spaces. It's kind of I don't have it anymore, but I just printed something today and I had some, but I threw it away. It's kind of not very solid, so you can take it off easily.
Okay. But like you said, where it attached will now be a little bumpy.
Yeah, just on the attachment.
do you go back with like a Dremel tool or sandpaper afterwards?
Oh, yes. Then
Okay.
you have to go, if it's apparent, then, it maybe it's in a place where you don't see anything, like a lot of the object. But if it's visible, then you should probably do some processing.
So that's all a part of the planning, is figuring out how to minimize the number of supports you need, even to the point where you might turn something at a 45-degree angle so the supports aren't as long or something like that. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes, the way you print the object also on the plate, sometimes you may have to change this position, change a little bit so it can print.
Yeah.
And these are all things that when you start doing printing, because one thing that most people that never did it, never had experience, see it more like a normal regular inkjet printer, like you just send it and you just work. But it's not quite like that. It's a very sensitive machine.
Okay.
There's lots of calibration that you have to do. And the filaments are different. Some filaments are better than others. It can clog. So there's a lot of little things that you get used after some time.
Yeah.
Also, it can, when it starts printing, it can... sometimes it doesn't stick to the plate, so it's printing, and then when you see the object just flies away, and so the printer keeps printing on air. So
and
if
then
you are not there and see, then it's going like that for the whole night. It's lots of fun.
She goes, it's really terrible, but no, it's really great. So, okay, I think this is a perfect transition, though, because I want to ask you, what is your favorite thing you've ever printed? Because I think one of the things I'm curious to hear is, how much is this is a functional thing? How much of this is we're making things that are not functional but are cute? And how much is this I just do this because I like it, and I don't really actually care about the outcome. So, like, what's your favorite thing you've ever done? And then could you dig in a little bit to, like, what do you actually like the most about this?
Yes, sure. It's hard to choose because some things. Yeah, I have a little. My babies. I have different categories of favorites.
Okay.
For instance, I have my favorites that I designed myself, so it's special for me. And I also have the more like functional ones, like the more cute ones.
Yeah.
So in the cute category, I have a Baby Yoda that I really like. And it's very cute, although I should do some post-processing and paint it and glue the head. But
is that so it's, for those who can't see right now, it's a Baby Yoda that's probably like, was that 8 inches? My video is pretty crappy right now too, unfortunately, so I can't see it fully. Probably like 8 inches tall or something like that. 6 inches, something like that.
I don't understand this measurement. The English measurement.
Sorry, I'm sitting here talking about. You're like centimeters.
Centimeters? I don't know.
It's the size of my head. Here we go. There we go. It's the size of my head. There you go. It's smaller than the size of your head. That is so freaking cute. Okay, so I'm looking at this Baby Yoda, and I see that you have a base and you have a head. I'm guessing there was a reason for the head to be printed separately because of what we were talking about earlier with the supports.
Exactly.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. So this was printed first, and I printed the heads. I needed some support for the ears here.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
And it's much easier to support those ears when the head is the base versus when it's on top of a 5-inch body or a 15-centimeter body or whatever.
And the arms are also the arms.
Oh, okay.
Also,
so again,
because
so that
these would also could not be printed like this, so it was printed like this.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So those who can't see, what she's showing is that even though the arms are sticking outwards, she actually printed them going up and then took them and then basically inserted them into the sides of the device. Okay, so Baby Yoda, that's freaking cute. Do you paint your stuff very often, or is it just something kind of more aspirational? Okay.
I wanted to, but I always say I'm going to paint the next one, but I never do. It's a lot of work. It's like it's very specialized work. So I always say I'm going to research everything. I'm going to paint. Yeah. But it's like a lot of like materials and other things that you have to need to buy and need to keep. And how often I'm going to use it. So I'm always like, I don't know.
Yeah. He's very cute as he is. He doesn't need to paint it. Yeah, exactly.
Just print and it's good.
Awesome. All right, so that's one of your ones that you enjoy the most. The Baby Yoda is the one that you got from somebody else. But can you tell me of the ones that you have designed yourself? What is one of your favorites?
Yes, so I really like this pencil holder.
Okay.
And it's a simple model, but that's what makes me like it more.
Okay.
Because I made a tutorial out of it, and
okay.
I learned how to just get a basic shape and import an SVG into a logo and put it like this. So
cool.
it's really nice. And I remember I made something else that it's not right here now. I made a wax scraper for surfboards that was really
cool.
cute, also with a logo, and there was you can use to take the wax out.
I don't actually know what wax scrapers look like, so I'm gonna have to go Google that right now.
Okay,
is it just like a little
comb?
Okay,
it's like a little
Got it.
comb
Okay.
that you can, because the wax starts to not get to work anymore, and you have to kind of scrape it a little bit.
Okay.
So it actually works.
So it's just
to
a cute
keep you
little
on
thing,
the surfboard.
but you've got one that has your favorite logo on it or whatever.
Yes,
That's
I
cool.
made one with a logo. Yes, I think the ones I designed, these are my favorite. I also made I don't have it now, but I made a toothbrush holder with a lid. The lid was an addition to like the basic shape. I already learned to do this. Then I'm gonna do a lid now.
That's awesome.
So that was the progress.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's very interesting to me because I've always imagined 3D printing to be more about cute little toys. You know, my brother 3D printed an elephant for my son, and it was one of his favorite toys for a while because he was able to do it somehow where the legs could be independent. And I don't know if it was like they were a part of the original build and then he cut some supports, or but whatever it was, I didn't know you could do that with 3D printing. It was very cool. So that was kind of my mindset. But I have another friend who is very handy, and he's always fixing old stuff, and he'll often be like, oh, well, there's a plastic angle bracket that I need to fix this thing I got at a garage sale. I think I can model it out and trace it and do it. So the fact that you could do that is kind of mind-blowing to me, because for me, when one of my kids' plastic toys breaks, it's the end of it. There's nothing I'm going to do about it. Have you found yourself doing more and more useful stuff as you become more aware of what your capabilities are?
Yes, actually, my husband did some more useful ones. When we got the printer, not longer after we got the printer, we needed one of those beds, guards. I don't know how it's called in English. The thing to protect for the kids not to roll out of the bed.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
So that thing didn't fit in the beds.
Okay.
So my husband made an adapter with the 3D printer,
awesome.
and it worked for a long time. Years.
So it was a guardrail that goes on one side of the bed to keep the kid from rolling off, but the place the guardrail attached into your bed didn't fit. So you were able to make an adapter.
Yes.
And what I would have had to do was just return the thing and give up and whatever. And you're like, no, we can do this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So if someone were to to be curious, and this is their first time hearing about 3D printing, or this is the time that finally tipped them over, how do you get started?
Okay, so, to get started, you need an investment of a printer, right? Buying a printer. And it's difficult sometimes to choose because there are some different models. Nowadays, there's a lot of different brands, and some are cheaper than others, but you have to be aware that with the cheaper brands, you might not have the same quality, and it might be more difficult to calibrate, you know?
Okay.
So you gotta be aware that the calibration is very important. And if the printer doesn't do that for you, then you might be in trouble. Like it can be very difficult to calibrate manually. So you have to look for a printer, like if you can afford, like a Prusa, for instance, that has more, it is open hardware, and many printers became, out based on the Prusa because they are open hardware, but they also have a big community, and everything works very well. I mean, I'm not saying that everything works like magic, because you still have to assemble. If you buy a kit that is cheaper, we chose the kit. And I advise, if you have the time, it's better to get the kit. Then you assemble it. Then you will learn about the machine. It's important that you learn about the machine, how it works, the hardware, everything. Not like you're gonna be an expert on the hardware suddenly, but if you assemble it, the manual is very detailed.
Okay.
You just have to follow it through, and then you will know, like, if you have a problem, then you might think, oh, I think that could be this.
Oh, because I remember putting that piece together,
yes,
so I know what could go wrong there. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So that's important because there are lots of places where you can have a little problem that can affect the quality of the print, the alignment and things like that. So I would say the first step is to research, to find the printer that you want, and you can get, of course, depends on your budget. And then once you are getting, like, we had to wait, I don't know, 4 months or something or more even.
Wow. Because
the printer was, when we got this printer, it's an MK3S and was still pre-order. And we didn't want to get the other model. So we said, oh, we're going to wait. It's okay. It's fine.
Wow.
But then it was like, oh my gosh, it was hard to wait. But we watched so many videos. Like we were like every night on YouTube watching YouTube videos about 3D printing. So we learned some things before it arrived, at least. And it was nice. And so once you have your research and when you're waiting for it to arrive, you can watch also some videos.
Right.
Yes. And just like be patient, because it's not just like a inkjet printer.
Right.
Printing is already kind of a job, like not a job like I say, but it's already some work, that to print something, it's work. It's not just send it from your phone and just get it printed.
Right.
And you have to be aware of various things, slicing and choosing the way, the layer height, and configuring if you want. There are some special things you can do with the print, like to make it very smooth on top. So there are different things when you're slicing the object you can choose. You have to make choices. Let's say you have to make many choices. Yeah. And then that's why you have to kind of research a little bit beforehand. But ultimately, you have to practice with everything. So you will fail a lot. You had a lot of failed prints. That's natural. I think that's nothing to be afraid of or embarrassed. I had so many failed prints. And also, if you can play with designing an object, it's really fun. And I could definitely recommend FreeCAD. It's an open source free software. It runs well on Linux. Okay. And you can, a CAD software is easier to model because it's more like parametric. Then you make a rectangle and then you just make it 3D, and then you make a hole. So the way you think about designing in a CAD software is different than when you use a software like ZBrush or others that you kind of model, make actually figures and things like that. That's harder, in my opinion. But there's also OpenSCAD, which allows you to write code and create objects purely out of code. So that's also very fun. Very fun.
Probably not where beginners would go, but very interesting if you're already a coder. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you can, for instance, I did some name tags. It was the easiest thing. It's easier to make also cubes and like simple objects. It's kind of like working with, not sure if you worked with like Image Magic before. PHP Magic. So it's kind of like that, the operations you make with the objects. So it's cool. Very fun.
So if anyone hasn't worked with those, you're basically saying things like you're writing lines of code and one line of code says, draw a box, upper left corner, not exactly this, but upper left corner is the 0,0 position. Lower left corner is the 100, 100 position. And then it just draws a box. So you don't have to be like, writing machine code. You're writing these more expressive things with pre-made ideas around draw a curve, and the curve's going to be Bezier curved in this particular angle. So it's interesting with the name tags, because now you got me thinking, like, what programmatic things can you do where you've got a CSV of the people's names who work at your company, you build a shape, and then it fits their names in this various spot. You really got me going here. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to share the image magic part of it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And exactly. So that's the potential of it is really, really interesting. Yeah. You can generate also, I thought of doing a kind of generator, but I was too busy to do that. But you can actually maybe create a front end, like to call a script and generate, because it can also generate the preview image, you know? Of the 3D object. So you have a code, you replace the name or wherever that you want to, you know, or you can also customize other objects. I also did once an elephant. Maybe it's even the same that you mentioned, that
my brother did.
Someone in your family, yes. It was an articulated elephant. In the legs would, like, so that one is printed like laying down on the and it's one single print. It's very interesting. There are lots of models like that. You can search for articulated. There's all kinds of articulated models. You can find snakes and all sorts of animals.
That's cool.
So I was able to get that model and put a name on it on the side of the elephant. So
that's awesome.
You can do that with OpenSCAD. Yes.
Wow, I did a talk at Laracon a few years ago. For those who don't know, that's the conference for Laravel, and it was basically, I had some, it was about home automation. And so I had some lights behind me, and halfway into the talk, I revealed to people that there's a website where you can go and press a button and it would actually make the lights flash a certain color.
Oh, nice.
That type of stuff is really fascinating to me. And so when you're talking about this generator, I know what you were originally saying is the idea of a generator that just generates a 3D model for somebody to use in their own printer. I know that printers are way too slow and too expensive to have it so where like a random person on the internet could press a button and print something at your house or whatever. But it still makes me really curious whether there's some interactive kind of things where, you know, like each person gets to do one link of a chain or whatever, and they enter it and it prints it, and this chain is something like that. I don't know. It's just got my brain going lots of places. So this is really cool.
No, people have done that actually. Yes.
Okay.
I think there are some fairs, you know, like Maker Faire. That's also some in the 3D printing world, as far as I remember. There was a time I was really, you know, Instagram, I was really into it, you know. Nowadays I'm not researching that much anymore. But I saw people doing this, like they would print large pieces at home, lots of people from the community, and then they assembled the object together like a sculpture in the event. So that's awesome. That actually, yes, that's a thing.
You had mentioned the idea of a generator that generates a 3D model for other people, which I think is really interesting because you as a coder are able to, because I've been talking to one of my friends who does, who's maintaining a WordPress website, and this will make sense in a second. And he said, I'm trying to hire somebody to help me. And I said, well, there's two different classes of WordPress programmer. There are the people who just know how to implement an existing WordPress theme, and then there's people who actually know how to write plugins and write core stuff. And it seems really interesting to me that this is probably, and that's true in the home automation world as well. Seems it's probably true here, is there's some people who know how to plug an existing model into a thing, and then there's some people who actually know how to create models. And so it's interesting that you as a coder have the capacity to potentially do even more, which is build a tool that helps people create their own models. And so even within the 3D printing world, there's various levels of like what complexity you can do that maybe more than other people, and you may end up making a side hustle or a free website or whatever for that. So it's really fascinating to hear that.
Yes. I remember what I was going to say is that there are also services that you can send the model and get it printed and sent to your home if you don't
That's
own
really
a
cool.
3D printer. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I was thinking you're going to say it the opposite direction. You can send them a 3D object and they'll make a model out of it. But if you have a model, whether you downloaded it or you made it, you send it to them and they just charge you for printing and mailing. And and they take the responsibility for learning how their machine works and sanding off the supports if it needs to. That sounds kind of nice. So,
yes. Usually there are like kind of hubs and like printing hubs, like and people like me or like other people who have home 3D printers, and they can get this service, like join the service, the site, and then get orders.
Oh,
so
cool.
Before we got a printer, my husband was designing a case for a Raspberry Pi, as far as I remember, and he sent to someone to print it in Amsterdam, someone that lived kind of close by. Yeah. So it was our first 3D printed object that we got in our hands. Was not printed by our printer. Yes.
I mean, when you said there were services, I imagined that it was going to be some corporation somewhere, but it's individual people who have 3D printers in their home. It's sort of like an eBay or something, or Etsy.
Yes.
Etsy for 3D
printing. There was a website, and then you can get the orders from the websites. But basically the final users printing and sending and shipping them. And also there are some services that print in other materials. So maybe you can design jewelry, like rings, and you can print it in silver or I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I know that there's
very cool.
That my friend Andy is doing something right now where they are making adaptive kitchen devices, and so they have to use a food safe plastic, which I know that like the normal stuff. So there's all this different. Okay, this is cool. As always, I could talk to you forever, but we do need to start wrapping it up. So before I ask you the last question, is there anything else that you wish we had a chance to cover today on this?
One thing that is also important is that are many different materials. That's what you may mention right now. There are different materials. Usually, PLA is the material that most people are gonna use for, everyday printing. It's easier to print, but there's materials that are more resistant, because PLA is not very heat resistant.
Okay.
So it's not for outside, for instance. Then you have to go for other materials. There's PETG, prints at a higher temperature, but it's a lot more resistance to heat and to be outside. And there are others also, some more difficult to print. But PLA and PETG are the easiest to print. So that's just a last tip.
That's super helpful. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you wish we had covered that we didn't?
No, I think we're good.
Good. I think this was fantastic. I mean, you got me all excited now, and I've been trying to hold out for years as my brothers really dug deep into this, and I was a little nervous that when I talked to you, this was going to be the thing that finally tipped me over, and I think it might have been.
Wow.
So you did the job. All right. So our last question is: what insight or support did you either receive or need when you were younger that you hope more people will give to others?
Okay, so it's more like I had a privilege that I was in touch with arts very young, because my mom is involved with arts, was an artist. She is still, but she's not working right now. And I think that was very important in my formation years, because even as I ended up in IT, but that gave me a base that made me believe more in creativity and using my imagination and, believing that you can really also express yourself through codes and through everything you do, actually. And I think I wish that more people had the opportunity to really be in touch with arts from a very young age, but actually believe in creativity as a important thing, not just
frivolous. Yeah.
Yes, a frivolous thing, but also very important.
That's awesome. Yes. I mean, you and I are both programmers, and we have seen how creative programming is. And people think of programming as this hard science, and it's like, it is a hard science, and hard sciences require creativity. You know, like
Exactly.
there's an art and there's a creativity that is in every single aspect of what people tend to think of as purely mathematical formulas. Even mathematical formulas still require some creativity. So I love that. That's really cool.
That's true. And some people say like things like, I am not creative, or but that's not true. Like, everyone is creative because that's human nature. You just sometimes need to, it doesn't come out of nothing, you know, like an inspiration, or even the great artists, they would never like just come an idea just like easily. They would have to, you can have an inspiration, but it requires a lot of hard work to create, to make it in reality, to create that art, you know, to output it. So
that's good.
Everybody is creative. You just need to find a way to exercise it, because we typically, it's taken out of us at school, and they're like everything is you know, the same education. Everybody has the same education, and we are often remove that creativity from us, or just don't take it seriously, don't want to, because it's not important. But it is important, and you have it inside you. Just find ways to express it.
And I think everything you said was really good there. But I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was it doesn't make you less creative if you need inspiration. That's something I've struggled with a lot, is because I say, because I can't sit down with an empty canvas and do this thing, therefore I'm not creative. And so your point there is really helpful and meaningful to me, because it's like the best of the best of the best still look to something else for inspiration.
Yes.
And that doesn't make you any less creative. Thank you. That's really good. I keep joking with people, but this podcast is therapy for me. I really appreciate all of my guests. So, okay. So if people have heard this and they think you're amazing, which I'm sure they do, how can they follow you? How can they support you?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Erika Heidi there, and on GitHub also. Yes, basically it's... Okay.
And we'll have links to that. We'll also get a link to your... you said you had made a tutorial for the pencil box, so we'll make sure we get a link to that.
Yes.
So we'll link to all these things in the show notes.
All right. Awesome.
And so if you all love Erika or want to learn more about 3D printing, you can check her out. And like we said, she's a developer advocate, yes. So we've actually had a couple developer advocates on the show just randomly. I think I know and like a lot of developer advocates. So I think if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know what that role is. So you know what kind of creative stuff she's doing in her day job. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can also check her out on Twitter and see what she's doing there. So
awesome. Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks
Erika,
so much, man.
You're amazing. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And for the rest of y'all, be good to each other. I'll see you next time.